Hi, everyone. We are here with Indiana Children in Nature Network. I'm going to go ahead and just share just a few slides as we get started about what Indiana Children Nature Network is all about. And then we are going to go ahead and we are so privileged to have some great people that host regional or local nature groups across family nature group kind of things across the state of Indiana to answer some questions and share some insight that they had in creating these spaces. So Indiana Children Nature Network. Just by way of introduction for myself, I'm Dr. Carla Gull. I work with University of Phoenix, but I'm the state coordinator for ICANN. I've also do a lot with Loose Parts and Loose Parts Learning. I have a book that came out not too long ago, trying to get kids and educators outside, and also a podcast, Loose Parts Nature Play, if that is helpful and any resources. And let's see, sorry, I had the wrong slide there. And as far as ICANN goes, Indiana Children Nature Network. This is patterned after a larger organization with Children Nature Network, and this is actually part of the Environmental Educators Association of Indiana. So it's just one portion of the nonprofit group, professional development group for it. And it really looks at state-specific resources. A couple of the things that we do are the Nature Play Days in June. We have had a webinar about this. So you are welcome to go ahead and check that out. That's on the website. You can find it there. And then also a pledge to play outside for 30 minutes every day. And we may not get 30 minutes every day, but we try as much as we can. But these are just a couple of things. And really one thing that we try to do is network. And that's what we're doing a lot of today. So the mission, our mission is to foster the connection of children, families, and communities to the natural environment so they can receive those physical, emotional, and intellectual benefits of spending time outdoors, and also building that lifelong love of nature. I would say that it also helps with that connection to nature to take care of nature in the future. So there are a lot of benefits to it as well. And ways that we do that are just by raising awareness of the benefits, promoting unstructured play and time outdoors, which regional family nature groups does perfectly, and then also engaging a diverse network of people and facilitating collaborations. And so that's really kind of what we're focusing on tonight, is networking and showcasing some of the great things that are happening already in the state of Indiana as far as getting families outside, kids outside. So if you all don't mind that are part of the panel, if you don't mind, go ahead and sharing who you are and where you're coming from. You can give a quick introduction of what would I say, of the group that you host, kind of what region of the state you're in, any of those things. Yeah, so, and let's go ahead and start with Kate. Would that be okay?
I am Kate, and I am from Fort Wayne, so Northeast Indiana, and I am an ambassador with Hike It Baby. So it's under the umbrella of an international organization, but that is what I come from.
Okay, great. And one thing that I love about this is that we're going to see lots of different ways of having groups. And so you're with Hike It Baby. I know that I do Tinkergarten classes as well, which is another approach. And we'll see some of the other things that people do. Janelle?
Hey, I'm Janelle, and I organize, it's called the Michiana Nature Play Group. Northern part of the state, South Bend, Mishawaka, and then even into Michigan a little bit, if we can include them in our presentation.
Yes, we are great with blurring lines, artificial lines, and really, you know, that this little strip of Northern Indiana was probably part of Michigan before, but always interesting about that. So Audrey?
My name is Audrey Walters, and I am in the Indianapolis area, kind of the northeast side, like Fishers. And I stumbled upon a Facebook group that needed an owner. It was previously the old Free Forest School that kind of took it off platform. And so there was a Facebook group and it needed somebody to manage it. And I said, I'll do it. So now I run an outdoor play group I don't really have any background in doing this. I just, my background is early childhood education and special education. So I like to play with kids. And so yeah, we're a Facebook group that meets once or twice a week.
Thanks so much. It's neat to hear everyone. We've also got Megan Coriel here. You don't really have a nature play group right now, but you're here learning and understanding. And I know that you participate in different nature groups as well, such as Janelle's. So, and you're one of those Michiana people, Indiana or Michigan. I'm not quite sure, but we like you. So. And you're welcome, Megan. I know you have a lot of insight as well. You're welcome to speak up and share at any point as well. So Janelle just kind of created a group. She saw a need and she created it. And Kate was part of, is part of a larger organization that's international that also has local work happening here in Indiana. And then Audrey, you just took over something else that someone else was doing. You're like, okay, so you stepped up to the plate. What is it about these family nature groups or this why of connecting children to nature? Why is it that you keep doing this? Because I'm sure it's a fair amount of work.
So I know that when I found Hike It Baby, I was, my friend Molly, she restarted our Hike It Baby chapter in Fort Wayne. So I started going while she was hosting, and I had my little baby, and it was the best thing ever. I met people that I have shared values with, people that I still hike with. We kind of shut down because of COVID, and we just got back to hiking, and I still saw the women from before often. So I wanted to get back to it because I know that there's so many moms who really need community, and it's hard to find your niche, and getting kids in nature is like the best place for them to be. Like, I'd rather take my kids on a hike than have them in like I was in a MOPS group and they went to the nursery, and that's great, but like seeing the kids like run down the trail is just like, it's just so much more fun that way. And so that's why I continue to host, and like why I kind of brought it back after COVID, because it just seems like a need we have in our community.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else?
I would say similar. I'm a very extroverted, outgoing, social person. And so I make friends all the time. But I see moms that are like, oh, I'm kind of shy. I don't know if I should come. And I'm like, just show up and I'll force myself upon you, and I'll incorporate your kids into the play, whatever we're doing. And then it's like, oh, they really needed this. And they want to get their kids outside. I think especially with COVID, we were not able to actually join Free Forest School because it shut down with COVID. And I was really disappointed. Here's what can we do? We can go outside and we can still socialize outside. And so keeping that, it's still a safe activity for families, and yet getting people out and exploring nature.
Yeah. Janelle?
Yeah, I really resonate a lot with what everyone is saying. I mean, I think there's just such a tangible need right now, especially for families with young kids, of just to feel connected with other people. And yeah, for me, coming out of COVID, I actually, pre-COVID, this was like in January of 2020, I started looking at some of these more national organizations, and there weren't any in my area, and thinking, well, maybe Free Forest School or Hike It Baby, like what model am I interested in? And started moving forward with one of those. And then, of course, everything shut down. And so I actually ended up taking a lot of sort of those ideas and principles, but thinking, I don't actually need sort of an umbrella organization in order to make this happen. But just wanting that connection and community for my family, and also just seeing that need in other people. And then I also think we have a number of people who have never actually attended an event. But I try to also, in addition to the events we host, try to make it a space of just encouraging nature play. I try about once a week just to post a quote or an article or an activity around nature play so that even the people who aren't attending our events are still sort of getting that encouragement. So I kind of see it as sort of a twofold of the connection piece, but also just encouragement and awareness.
Yeah, thank you. And what you said about even people that don't come to the activities, you still are letting them know about spaces that are out there that work when they can get out. And you're also sharing resources and inspiration. And I call it normalizing nature, just making it normal part of everyday life that we get outside and share tips and tricks and things like that. Just a little bit history on me. I had started my youngest is 9 years old. When he was a very new infant, 5 weeks old, I started the Indiana Master Naturalist class. And I've got a background in education, and I kind of did a deep dive in children and nature. And I was at a nature center in Elkhart and started volunteering there more and more and more. And I saw a family nature club just as a way to have programming at the nature center. So for me, that was a way that I could promote nature. I could promote the great woods and such that we had at the nature center, and also get my kids out and doing stuff with other kids. So it met many of my needs, and it was volunteer hours for me as well, which counted towards the Indiana Master Naturalist program. And so I went from doing that. I did it maybe once a month, hosting it. And it was always at the same place because we were trying to encourage people to go to the nature center. And that's probably where I met you, Janelle. And then also was able to try out a whole lot of different skills and such. And so ours were a little bit more facilitated, but there were also a lot of opportunities just for pure nature play with that as well. And fast forward about 5 more years or so, I was no longer around the nature center, but I still wanted something to do with my child. And that's when I joined Tinkergarten, started facilitating classes through them. It is a little bit different of a format in that it's a class. And one thing that I like about it is that they take care of like all of the emails and all of the parent education. They have a great program, and I don't have to deal with all of the stuff behind the scenes of it. So that's really nice for me. But I also am involved with like a local group, Goshen Gets Outside, which isn't super active, but it does become, like Janelle had mentioned, a resource where you could ask questions, get some insight, learn about some of those local places that are helpful for other people. So that kind of gives you a little bit where I'm coming from and some perspectives with it. So the next question, what is like the format of your nature group? Some of you have shared a little bit, but like, how does it function or work? Like, are you the only person? Are you setting up regular play sessions, or how do the logistics of it work, I guess?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
So the format of my group, there's a group called South Bend Adventure Club that I kind of modeled this off of, in the idea that theoretically anyone can host an event at a time and a place of their choosing, and then they create an event, and then anyone in the group can join them. In practice, that means that I'm the one doing the events, which is totally fine for me. I'm hopeful that maybe someday, I think I need to specifically invite some other people to maybe plan some events. But I try to host an event once a week. Usually right now it works with my schedule for Fridays, and I kind of alternate between 10 a.m. one week to kind of hit the families with younger kids, and then 4 p.m. the next week to try to pull in some of the kids coming from school or childcare situations. And then I try to do a Saturday, more of a hike once a month to kind of target those older kids as well. Sometimes I'm starting to maybe rethink that approach, that I think I'm trying to be sort of too many options for too many people, because then we don't always get the consistency of it's 10 a.m. on Friday every single week, and people sort of building that into their schedule and routine. So I'm gonna I think I'm gonna drop the after school option going into the summer, especially because school's out, and we'll see. And then I also kind of host in different locations. We kind of have, I have my favorites, so 6 to 8 different locations where I host, but try to kind of spread that over a geographic area too, to try to attract different people from different places.
I like it. Thanks so much. And I know in the past I have hosted, and I see this with Tinkergarten, but like a nature preschool and parent kind of class. And that consistency of seeing each other every single week really builds up relationships with it. And we don't always get that with different formats we have, but that's also another chunk of time that goes into that as well. And most of us are doing some of the things that we're doing as volunteers. And so it's got to fit in our own schedules and such too. So ultimately we've got to do what works for us, and then also consider needs and desires of other people as well. So anybody else?
So my setup is basically exactly like Janelle's. I came into this group and there was, you know, a leader and then like 6 or 7 moderators, and they're like, yeah, I'll do something with you. And no one did. No one did. So right now it's me posting events, and Indianapolis is a very large area. So I have a lot of people commenting, you know, that's an hour away from me. And so my pushback is, you get to host one. I haven't had very many people take me up on it, but that is always my pushback, because I didn't want to spread myself too thin. So I pick a time that's convenient for me, a location that's convenient for me. And then if nobody shows up, my kid gets to go to a park that I would take her to anyways. And I tell people that. I'm very, very honest about it. I'm like, I'm not going to drive over to Danville. You know, that's like an hour.
Yeah.
So same thing. I do a variety of days, a variety of times, kind of isolated. Like I have a Monday afternoon group that really likes to get together Monday afternoons. I can hit some of the teachers because we meet about 3:30. And then there's a lot of people that want to get together in the morning with babies, but then there's also people that I can't do that early. You know, I just can't get out of the house. So I mix up what time I do it just to try to get more people. But I feel like you're right in saying that we don't have a consistent. There is somebody new every time. So that's got both of its pros and cons. I haven't decided. It would be ideal if I could have like a once a week always and then once a week rotating, but I just don't have that kind of time right now.
And we're grateful for all of it that you do. You know, you're still getting yourself and your child or children, and then others out in nature, and that's wonderful. And hopefully, I mean, part of the hope with this webinar tonight is just giving other people some ideas and information on logistics of how they might create their own local nature group as well, and they can see, oh, I could do that, and see how it might work for them. And with any of these things, like it is often a looser format, so like if something happens, you take a break for a little bit and then you start back again, as opposed to like a paid class where there's more structure, but sometimes there's that commitment. I know I was in one mom's group at one point, and we had to pay, it wasn't even that much money, but like $10 or $20 just to kind of say, hey, we're committed to this. And then once you pay, you're usually willing to do that. And we had exceptions if it just really was a financial burden. If that person was willing to be a part of it and willing to volunteer as part of that, you know, we could waive that or something of the sort. We don't want to have barriers, but I know when I pay for a class, sometimes that I'm more committed to it. And I don't know why we do that, but I know it's for me too sometimes. And then Kate, any thoughts on yours?
Yeah, so since Hike It Baby is international, I guess I feel like I have less work to do a little bit. So we used to have to pay to join. It was like $10 donation they would ask for, and they got rid of that. So it's now free to join. I don't remember, I know I donated the last time I did my ambassadorship, but I don't remember if they required it or not. I just did it. But they have a website, and that's where I put my hike, on their website. And then on the Facebook page, I share the link to the website. So on Facebook, I don't share where we're going, what time we're going. That's all on the website that you have to log into, which I liked about Hike It Baby, that they had that extra protection of you have to join, you have to actually share like an interest in it and take time to join the website to see where the families are going. So once I put it in, they have people on their team that go over my hike and approve it, and then it goes on their website. So, and then if I want to cancel it, I have to email them, and like, I always post it on Facebook, but that's kind of what that is. And they have like certain rules that I have to abide by, like if for their insurance to cover a hike, if something were to happen, you know, I can't go, like we can't do water days, but like we can do like small water, like up to kids' knees. There's, so like I'm under them. I forget where it's going.
We're just talking about the logistics, but I think that that's really a
Yeah.
consideration. You're kind of talking about the insurance umbrella, I
Yeah.
think. Did you have more to share on that?
Oh, I think I just liked that it was there. It made me more comfortable knowing that that was there.
Mhm.
And then there's people who are working in the organization that aren't me to like make these rules and do these things. So the rules on the Facebook page are all from Hike It Baby. Like I really just plan hikes and post and share things. So that's the nice thing I think about that. And then about Janelle and Audrey's like hosting, I do the same thing as Audrey. I'm like, this is good for me and my family. This is where we're going. And in past times, people like when we were more active before COVID hit, people would complain that they didn't get to do this or this or this. And we would just say, well, you can host if you really want a Saturday hike. So.
And with that, thank you to everyone that's ever hosted something like this. You're getting yourselves and others out in nature. You did kind of bring up an interesting point kind of around the kind of rules around it. Do other people have rules around their adventures that they go on? Or parameters? We know we have to call it rules.
Rules. I would love it if people would actually RSVP and do like a truthful RSVP. Let's face it, it just doesn't happen. So no, we don't have any rules. And I've put it out to the group more than once, like, hey, do you guys want some rules? And every time I get shot down. I feel like I want this to be, it's not my group, it's the community group. And I really want to push that aspect. So I don't want to impose rules because it's easier for me. That being said, I do go through and I clean things up and, you know, make it pretty and how I want it to look, but not have any set rules.
Yeah. Janelle, do you have any kind of guidelines or anything?
Yeah, I feel like the guidelines I use most are the ones I set around weather. So we won't meet if the wind chill is below, feels like 10. If there's a heat advisory or if there's a chance of thunderstorms. And I just felt like those were ones, because I feel like especially families with infants, if they're not dressed appropriately and if they don't, I mean, it's particularly in the winter, I don't want to put them in a situation where they're not aware of actually, you know, what 10 degrees wind chill feels like. So we did have to cancel a few winter events because of wind chill. Yeah, and there are others just about being kind, not promoting stuff on the, you know, like not trying to sell stuff on the page, that kind of thing. But honestly, I haven't had any issues with that. So
yeah. And I think sometimes with the smaller groups, because it can be very, I mean, they could just be a neighborhood or a small town, or, you know, an elementary school and the children that go there or something like that, or a friend group even. It really can be that small, but then it could be larger, like where Audrey is a very large region. And I believe, Kate, you're the Hike It Baby Fort Wayne group. Is that where you are? Yeah, it's a pretty large group, like 800, 900 people or something like that.
Yeah, I think people just add all the time. I don't really, we're not supposed to deny people. They're supposed to ask questions when they join the group, but.
Yeah. So it really can be small. It can be a little bit bigger. It can be really big. There's actually one group called 1,000 Hours Outside Indiana. And so it is with a more national organization, and with that goal of, they say 1,000 hours outside, but you really don't have to do it. But we did a webinar earlier in the year on getting outside in winter with your children, and Megan shared with that. So this is kind of more Indiana specific for that challenge, but it doesn't just focus on the challenge, but it's a great place to share, hey, this is what we were doing right now, or any ideas on where to go hiking or camping with our kids when we're in this region. So it can be at that statewide level or very micro level too. So lots of options with it, which I think is kind of fun with it. Yeah. So then how does the group itself, how does it get like children and families out in nature in Indiana? And I could be wrong, but I've mostly noticed that as moms and their kids, your group could be different. Feel free to share. But so how does your group kind of help get children and their families out in nature?
So I guess I'll start, but I think that our group helps, just like it helped me, people get comfortable going outside and realizing that they can. And like we were talking about the Facebook page, just even knowing that other people are doing it really helps, I think. So I know it helped me get comfortable hiking alone with my kid, not alone actually, because I'm not alone because I have this group. So hiking with my kids during the day while my husband's at work, which is why it ends up being moms a lot, because I think, you know, I host during the day, so it just ends up being whoever's with them. But then I do think it helps families in the long run, because it helps if the mom starts going with the kids, then she'll take the dad out with her later, like, or whatever partner, you know, the whole family can go eventually if they're introduced through this group. So I think in the long run, even if I'm just with whoever stays home with the kids, because I host on Tuesday at 10, you know, I still think I'm helping their family, the whole unit.
Yeah, that's one thing that I notice a lot in working with children and a caregiver, whatever that caregiver may be, is that while we may be doing nature play here, it extends into the rest of the week, you know, and they come back and their parents are telling me about how the stick was a rocket ship all week long or whatever it is. And so that's something that's been really eye-opening to me, is just how much it benefits beyond the actual time we are together, and spills over into other areas. I often take around like a little mobile mud kitchen setup to different things that I do. I'm going into preschools and stuff like that. And it's just 2 crates with a piece of plywood, marine grade plywood on top, a jug of water, and then a crate full of like kitchen stuff from Goodwill. And people like, oh, I could do that in the backyard. And I'm like, yes, you know, and just something simple that can inspire other people to use the space that they have as well. I did also kind of want to comment on one reason why I have hosted things like this. I sometimes have good intentions as a parent that I want to get my child out in nature and doing things like that. But if I don't schedule it and commit to doing something and inviting other people to it, I don't always get it done. And so it is a great way to get me motivated to do the things that I want to have happen in our family. And I know like this, actually, you know, I guess I've kind of been doing this this school year. my son's in 3rd grade, the youngest one. We've just been doing like every other month, like a nature play day for his class and a few of his other friends and neighborhood kids to come over to our house. We live on 3 acres and have some space and such. And really, sometimes we have some activities, sometimes we don't. We invite the whole class and then a few other people, and the kids just run back and forth. They just have a good time. In this situation, it's a place where the parents can drop the kids off. I have another person that's at the house with me and such, and I'm used to dealing with a bunch of 8 and 9-year-olds. And so different formats. It doesn't cost anything. We usually have a snack, but it gives my child a time outdoors and so many other children that may not necessarily have that opportunity to be outside with that. So that's another, just an option. Just send a thing out to people in your kids' class. Hey, anybody want to meet up at the park? Kind of thing. So lots of ideas. Anybody else? And let me see what it was. Like how your group helps get children and families outside in nature, if you had other thoughts on that.
I've noticed that there are people that comment, I wasn't going to come today, but I put on the RSVP that I would, so I did. That's definitely true about, holding people accountable. And there are people that'll just throw on it. Hey, my family, it's Sunday afternoon. It's a beautiful day, especially when it was like just starting to get warm. We're going to hit up such and such park. Does anyone want to join us? I have no idea if that actually came to fruition, but I really like that they're going to this group to see first. Like, hey, does anybody want to join us? And we do just have moms and kids. Someone did ask, could they bring their dog because they didn't have any kids? And I said, absolutely, but I never saw her. And I've asked, like, can my husband come? And I'm like, yeah, but he might feel really weird. We haven't had any husbands yet. Maybe someday.
And maybe we need to work on that. Like how can we help dads that are primary child caregivers for their children so that they feel more comfortable going in these spaces that are largely women with their children. And does anybody know of any like dad specific groups? I don't know. That could be an opportunity out there. And I don't know. There was one in Elkhart, and I know a dad who was the primary caregiver, and he had a regular group that he had coming out at a special place. It was he wasn't very much onto technology. I think all of you here have a Facebook group. So he wasn't onto technology, but he had like printouts that he would share with people here and there. And so I'm not sure how it went long term. I should touch base with him. He would have been a good person to ask to this. But he was the one that was with the kids, and he valued that time outside. And so he made sure it happened. And he got used to being around women with their kids too. So any other thoughts, Janelle?
Yeah, and I'm actually going to share some pictures here too. I think
Okay.
that's
yeah, we kind of were joking earlier that our hobbies are like watching children play outside.
Right, yeah. I'll just kind of click through these as I talk a little bit. None of these pictures show playgrounds, but I think from the kids' perspective, I don't always host in a location that also has a playground, but I think it's interesting. Like this first picture is of Pinhook Park in South Bend, and they have a playground structure there, and we usually use that kind of as a gathering point. And then when we're ready, we can kind of go over to the lake and fish off the dock and take a walk around the park. But I feel like for kids, sometimes that's sort of a selling point of, where's the playground, where's the equipment, and that's sort of like the gateway almost to getting them outside. And we actually do have some dad, maybe a couple in our group. One of them, I think they just have one time, and the dad stays home and the mom works. So they usually like pick up the kids from preschool, and then they all come together. And we've also had a few other dad's come along. So that's been nice and refreshing too. So
Oh, and all weather. That looks like Bonneville Mill.
it is. Yes. Bonneville Mill. Yeah, I definitely, winter was more of a challenge for us, right? I mean, there's more gear, there's more things to consider. And so, but we made it through, and it's been a really wet spring up here too. So but we do rain or shine. So
And it looks like you've got gear for your family, and perhaps have even shared, tips within the group for other people. Hey, this is what works for us, to get outside in the rain or whatever.
mhm.
Has that been something that you've kind of touched on at all?
In the group, you're
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried to share some different resources of here's how to dress for the rain, here's how to dress for snow. Um, yeah. And there's been a little bit of, people asking good questions about, what kind of waterproof gloves do you recommend? Or here's a website that has a sale. So I've appreciated that kind of collaboration too. So, and I also wanted to mention, I dropped my group in the chat, and I think Kate and Audrey did too. It's a private group, but if you just, for the membership questions, if you just want to write in I can, and then I'll know that you watched or were present. And then if you want to join the group just purely for information purposes, that would be totally fine. So.
Great. And do you all mind if I put these on the ICANN website too? Starting a list of regional nature groups that people could be interested in. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And I've been impressed. I think I'm in all of the groups. And while I live in one area, I just kind of like to know, especially as the state coordinator for ICANN, what's going on, and just celebrate with you all the great things that are happening with what's happening there. So one thing that was mentioned was RSVPs. Do you have anything to talk about, like as far as communication and RSVPs with those kinds of things? I know that it's not a children's group, but it's like Hiker Babes. I don't know if you've heard of that, but women who go hiking different places, and it is part of a larger organization. And there are certain rules, you have to sign off on them. And so there's some liability that takes it off the person who's hosting and such as well. But if you RSVP yes, and you don't show up like more than twice or something like that, you're not allowed to continue going on things. I'm always a maybe for that reason, but any thoughts or tips on communication and RSVPs with that?
So I homeschool. I have 4 kids, and one of them is homeschooled. And so I'm in a lot of homeschool groups, and if you aren't, you'll realize that a lot of them do these kinds of things on the side. So there are some really fantastic nature groups. And there's one, and she's very specific. You must attend an event within 1 calendar year of joining, or you will, not be involved. And I think just knowing that, like, I got to 6 months and looked at my calendar and was like, I'm not going to be able to join. I'm doing my own play group. And so I just removed myself from the group. But knowing that she has really good attendance, and she's got a really good group. So I have not been brave enough to do that, but I mean, it's working for her.
I know I've been in charge of just a mom's group, and some of it was outdoors and some of it was, visiting the fire station. And we had the expectation that people hosted something every 6 months or something like that too. So that it wasn't just one person's responsibility to do everything, but it was, there's a little bit more of an investment. But that is, there are so many different ways to do it, and there's not a right way or a wrong way, just what works for whoever is the one that's hosting. So other thoughts on RSVPs and such?
So before COVID, we didn't have RSVPs. So most of the communication was on Facebook, and then sometimes people would tell me they were coming and sometimes they didn't. And so I wouldn't know what to expect when I got to the hike. The expectation was just that we would take off about 10 minutes in, like if it wasn't a playground, obviously, but so that changed. We're supposed to RSVP to keep our numbers down because of the, the larger organization. So for now, we are doing RSVPs. And so far, I've kind of liked it because I know what to expect and who I'm waiting for. So I do see the perks of having RSVPs. I think that the idea of not having them is helpful for moms who might not want to plan something, because I know I was talking to my one friend about it who wants to host hikes, like that maybe when your first time going, you're nervous and you might decide last minute, and RSVPing can be kind of daunting. But so I've had both sides of it now.
That's a considerate thought to really put yourself in that person's shoes and think about how it goes. Janelle, you have anything to share, or anybody else? And welcome, Megan, the other Megan. We're glad to have you here too. So if you have insight to share, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, hi, sorry, I was doing bedtime. So I teach a Tinkergarten group, which is a paid class. So it's kind of, as far as RSVPs go, it's nice to know, because I have people who sign up for an entire season, pay for an entire season, and a couple of them haven't even showed up for one class yet. And I'm like, okay, but it's kind of rough on me because then I have to prep stuff for extra kids that then don't show up, and then it's like, okay. For me, the RSVPs would be nice, just because I have to prep more stuff for more kids. And also just so I know kind of who to expect, because after a few classes, like I can, send somebody a heads up and like, oh, hey, they have a huge dirt mountain right next to our spot today. Just to let you know, because I know that your kid's gonna go right towards it, and things like that. But it's nice to know who's showing up. But I also, I understand. I've had friends that had some major postpartum anxiety issues, and like giving a definite yes or no was a big turnoff for them, because it was like they didn't know how they were going to feel that day. And, if it was going to be a good day and they could get out of the house and do it, or if it was going to be a no. And then they had the added pressure of, well, I said I was going to go, and then now I'm not feeling it and all that stuff. So I can see both ways of running it with the RSVPs.
And hopefully there's a variety of options for people and they can find what fits for them. And I really appreciate that, your mom's in the trenches and you understand some of the things that go into, and the unexpected things that happen. I do notice that with some of my regulars that I end up with, I'll get a text, oh, so-and-so is in there. Or just earlier this week, we had kids over for our class nature play group or whatever, I guess. And one dad showed up at 4:45 when we were 3 to 5. He's like, I'm going to go get pizza. I totally spaced this, but can you just stay here until I go pick up the pizza? But it's a relationship. We know each other. We're used to our kids hanging out and stuff like that. And yeah, he's gracious with that. So do you have any challenges or cautions to be aware of if someone's considering hosting a local or regional kind of nature group, I guess, with children?
I will say, coming from a very large group, that one of the rules I instituted was that if people invite friends, that they have to fill out the questions, because I was finding that people were inviting a dozen friends and the friends had no idea that they were even in this group. And then the group was getting very large. And so that was something that I had to think about. Okay, I want to invite people and I want to make this a huge community, but I also don't want it to mess up the Facebook gods. So that was one thing that I put into place. And I've let people know, like, if you've sent friends and they aren't here, it's because that's on them, like I didn't deny them. But that's really been my only thing. And it's slow starting. Because I started in the middle of COVID with a local group and then got bigger. There were lots of weeks that it was just me and my kid, and that, you just have to be okay with that. And then it was a holiday and I didn't realize it was a holiday. I don't know which one. And we were at a big park in Carmel, and I looked around and I counted up the families, and I am not joking, there were 17 families there. And I was like, wow, like obviously that didn't happen again. We averaged like 5 or 6. But to be able to do that one time was really cool.
That just like makes my heart so happy.
So silly that I'm excited about it, but I really was.
And you can see the direct impact. And yes, it takes a little bit of extra time, and hopefully people are saying thank you and things like that. But you can see that direct impact on how things are working with that. So anybody else?
Yeah, I guess I can kind of echo the growing slowly. I feel like we're getting there, and I honestly haven't done a lot of advertising. I'm kind of debating whether I want to sort of intentionally try to get the word out this summer and grow it, because I do see a lot of moms who are asking about play dates and can we get together and I need some friends. And I mean, I see that a lot. But I have posted some in a mom group and people join and then they never show up. So I think that like the Facebook groupie of like it takes about 2 minutes to join a group, that's very real. But I also think, that's okay too. And that's kind of where the information piece comes in. And I do, so if I use an RSVP, and if no one has RSVP'd like an hour before the event, I will honestly usually cancel it. Because I figure if you didn't take the time to RSVP to the event, then I'm not expecting you to show up. And usually, like maybe I'll just hike at a closer location to my house with my kids instead of, we were planning on going somewhere that was 20 minutes away and that kind of thing. So yeah, I do sort of use that sometimes.
Yeah, I can understand that tactic, and letting people know ahead of time. I'm sure you do. But if you don't, that's totally fine, because this is your group and you can do how you do with it. But yeah, it gives you a little bit more flexibility if people don't show up. And I've been, on the receiving side of no one showing up, and we still can have fun. But it is a different dynamic when my kids were expecting other kids to be there to play with, and which, I mean, can be a challenges with your own kids when you're trying to do this thing. Have you run into anything like that?
Yeah, I was like, well, who's coming today? Who's coming to the play date? And it's really hard because sometimes I will have like one maybe. And it's not someone I know very well. And I feel like, I mean, sometimes I'll just message somebody that I have never met before and say, hey, are you planning on coming today? But it's like, well, if I have one maybe and I haven't heard back from them, I feel like, you know what, I need to go. And so I just tell my kids, like one day we went to a park we hadn't been to before, and he really wanted to go to a very specific playground. This is my 4-year-old. And I said, well, why don't we head over to this park? And if no one is there and you think it's not interesting, then we can head over to the playground. Well, of course we got there and we were exploring the trails and playing on their little playground that was there. And it was like the other playground never even got mentioned once we physically got there and we were immersed in that environment.
Yeah, thanks. Megan and Kate, do you have any challenges that you'd share with this process of getting families outside?
Definitely the slow growth. Because yeah, I started my first season leading was last summer, and I started with 4 families. Then I had 4 families for fall, and then I had 4 families for winter. It's like, okay, I love you guys, and they're trying to spread the word and get other families to come to. And it's like, okay. And then with winter, the kindergarten did a thing where they allowed people to sign up for a free trial of a running class instead of having like a separate trial class, which helped a lot because I got 2 more families through that. And then so for spring, I have 9 now. I'm like, okay, now we're kind of getting some steam going. So that's nice. It definitely, it takes a while to get people to be reoccurring attendees. And it's like, oh yes, this is something I do want to do, and make, prioritize that we're going to make outside time a thing. And so the slow start, I definitely feel. And then also my son's 4, and he's very high energy, very deep emotions about everything. And so many times he's my challenge during class too, because it's like, I'll have an activity, and usually he doesn't want anything to do with it when the other kids are there, and he's like, come on, let's go, play Chico Bon Bon or whatever. And that's like, that's fine. That's why we're here, is to socialize and to get that social time in, and do it outside, which is even better. So there's usually mud involved. And but yeah, it's kind of a challenge when I do have an idea of something that I want to do during that time, and like present to other parents and be like, hey, here's a really cool thing, and here's, especially because mine is a paid class, it's like, here's what you're paying for, and I'm sorry my kids, taking y'all on a bear hunt over there. So that's one of my challenges, is just kind of being able to let go of my expectation of how things are going to go, and just kind of let the kids do what they need to do that day. And sometimes it's what I'm inviting them to do, and other times it's completely different. So.
I do a lot of work with the loose parts concept in nature play in general. I call them starts or sparks sometimes. Yeah. So just something enough to get started, and then letting the children go with it however they want to, or other stuff, and following their lead really strongly with that. I find works best, and they always surprise me with the ideas that they come up with that are much better than I could ever come up with. So yeah. We're kind of running low on time, but I do still have kind of 2 more questions, and you can talk about both of them. But one of them is memorable moments you've had through doing this. If like when the 17 families showed up at the park, whatever it may be. But it could just be something. I remember, Miss Carla, I found a nose, and she's holding up a rock. That will always be ingrained in my heart, kind of thing. Engraved, I guess is the right word. And then also Indiana Children Nature Network. How can we support you as someone who is helping get children outside in the state of Indiana and around it? So memorable moments and how I can support you.
So when I saw the memorable moment question, the most memorable hike we did, I think, but maybe it's because I like food, but we did like a potluck, and we met at a playground on a Saturday. So the dads actually came. So it was like a whole family thing, and there were quite a few of us there. It was a couple years ago, but that was like a fun way to get people together. And then the kids played, and the dads actually talked to each other. So I don't know, that just sticks in my head as like our most memorable like hike activity that we have done. I mean, I feel like we just do it a lot, so it's hard for me to think of other things that I just hike with my kids so much.
That's great.
Which is memorable.
And is there anything that I can do to support you in what you're doing?
Well, I think that having the link on the website is good, and I actually just learned about ICANN, so that's nice.
No worries, and we hope to let more and more people know about it, and just that statewide concentrated effort in getting more people outside. So thanks. Anybody else?
I think my most memorable moments have been the play dates that we've had in the rain. And it's just so encouraging to me when other families show up. And honestly, sometimes it's like I plan the event on Monday, and I'm like, maybe it won't rain. Friday comes around, it's raining and 50. And I'm like, okay, someone else has RSVP'd, so now I have to show up. And it's like, it's that really good peer pressure, because once we like gear up and get out the door, it's always wonderful. And I'm so thankful that I'm there. And just to see how the environment changes in different weather, the logs are slippery, the textures are different. And it just can be like a really magical and special experience that if I was not a part of the group, I would be home with my slippers. So those have been sort of the most memorable ones for me. Yeah, as far as I can, I think I need to look into the nature play days and get connected, because we host once a week. So I think I just need to go back to those resources and make some of our events during that time official.
Yes,
So.
I would love that. Anybody else? Thank you.
My second most memorable was, like Janelle said, it was cold, like 15 degrees cold. And I had like 7 people show up and I was like, whoa, I thought it might just be one. And we were hiking, no playground. And so the ground was frozen, and that ground that's usually muddy that you don't get to explore, we got to go stomping on. And the kids, we literally, after an hour and a half, I said, we have to go home. It's 15 degrees. Like, it's super cold, guys. And we did have somebody, like Janelle said, we had a little guy that was not properly dressed and crying. And I was like, we need to end this. But that is the inclement weather. I'm reading the book, There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather.
Mhm.
And to like get involved in it. And it's so cool when other people like get on board with that as well.
Yeah.
And I would say, as far as I can supporting, I am just looking for like things like this, like extra resources, because I have no background in this and I'm kind of just fumbling around. So I'm looking for feedback like, oh, have you tried this? Or what about that? And I will say that I just posted my play date today. We are going to do, my daughter goes to a co-op preschool that's outside. And in Hamilton County, where we are, like all the parks are really great. So I didn't need to go to a park. I wanted to do a new location. And so this is both promo for the school and get to have the play day in a really great space. So we're going to do it on a Saturday. So I'm going to go with a whole new group of people, because it's not a mommy and me play date. It's a whole family. And I just told my husband tonight, I said, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get put to work. I'm like, I don't know what it's going to look like, but we could, fingers crossed, have a lot of people show up. So hopefully, I know it says the website doesn't update like all the time, so it'll be on there. We're going to do our Fisher's date.
That's fantastic. And I've worked with the co-op preschools there around Indy several times, and wonderful programs that are happening. A good emphasis on the outdoors with it as well, and their natural play spaces and all of those kinds of. So we'll have webinars about kind of the nature preschool movement that's coming up, tweens and teens and nature. That's where my kids are mostly right now. And then also like risky play. That's one of my I know that that's uncomfortable for some parents sometimes, and that's one of my areas of research. Like I research tree climbing, because that's what people do, right? So, anybody else that we didn't get to? I'm trying to think. Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
For memorable moments, I have several, but the ones I really like are the times when you think the kids aren't paying any attention to what you say, and then, or what you're showing them, and then like 3 weeks later, out it comes, and it's like, oh, okay. So you realize that, yeah, they actually are absorbing everything all the time, just kind of picking and choosing when they show it. Because I know my son is one of those that he'll, like I said, he'll be leading a pretend play, on the other side of the field, and 3 weeks later he comes over, can I do that thing that we were doing on the kindergarten? I was like, when? And he'll like be the, oh, that okay, yeah, that was 3 weeks ago, but yeah, sure, we can do that. So
Can I point
Whether-
out too that on the Tinkergarten website, there is a whole like do-it-yourself
Yeah, I
activities.
love that.
So if you're looking for an activity to do with your family groups, they have a whole list, and you can sort it by season and activity and like social emotional skills that you're looking at, all kinds of stuff. But go ahead.
Yeah, I love their DIY stuff. It's like, okay, I'll just pull something from that if I need something to keep him busy for a while. But yeah, so those are my memorable moments that it's like, okay, yeah, we're really truly making an impact that I can see. Um, and then as far as ICANN, like, yeah, I just learned about ICANN recently when you posted something about it. I was like, oh, okay,
We need
that's
to
cool.
keep getting the word out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and kind of a little bit of a teaser, we are starting an ambassador program late June, I guess. And so information will be coming out about that soon. And you all would be excellent candidates for it. We'll share some more information about it, and I'll try to follow up with each of you specifically as we get information up on the website so it's more official. But just, ways to help. You're already getting people outside, and just encouraging and being supportive of you all in what you're doing as well. For me, one memorable, well, not one, but one thing that I like, Tinkergarten has special like celebrations that they have different times of the year. And one of them is kind of like welcoming in the winter solstice almost, not quite there, a little bit earlier, but you make a lantern and then you meet at dusk time and you have special songs that you sing, and then you go take a hike with your lanterns and such. And and it's free, open to the community. And I just love that perspective of changing. Oh, it gets dark at 5 o'clock. We can't go out anymore. To let's welcome this with something special and really use this time that we have where we can be outside in different ways and such. So yeah. And do you have any questions for each other? So, seeing different approaches and such, do you have questions that you might have for each other? And Megan, in the middle, if you've got questions for anybody, feel free to share those as well.
So I think I missed it. I know Audrey from Outdoor Play People. Hi, Audrey. But what do
There's another
the other-
Megan that's online. Sorry, that's who I was asking. But if you have questions for other people that are on the webinar right now, you're welcome to share those too. So.
What were the other people? I
Oh,
missed.
yeah. So one's with Hike It Baby,
Okay.
and one is just Janelle just kind of created her own group. She looked at some of the different models and she's like, I can just do that on my own, and she's done it. She's been doing a great job with it. So. Feel free to send them in at another time if you've got additional questions. And I want to offer a huge thank you all for taking your time. Not only do you spend time getting people outside, these children and families, but you also took your time to share what you have learned, your experiences, and getting that outside, people outside with that as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
And if
I'm ready.
stop recording, if anyone wants to talk, they're more than welcome to off record.